Hello and welcome back to the CR Woodshop. This is Bert, your friendly neighborhood cabinet maker. In this video I'm going to show you how to cut grooves in drawer stock to receive a plywood bottom. I have here a typical cabinet drawer that's already been dovetailed, half-blind dovetails. It's labeled on the top edges and the inside face. It's very important when we do this that we cut the groove on the correct face and on the correct edge. If we mess up one piece of stock, get it flipped upside down, it will mess up the drawer. We'll have to start over. So the first thing we need to do is to arrange our stock in such a manner that we will not accidentally flip one piece or mess it up. I like to start with the side, look at it. In this case I put a pencil mark on the lower edge. This is approximately where I want that dado to be cut. I know that this face has to go down, and I want that lower edge against the fence of the table saw to keep the blade as close to the fence as possible, just for safety. So this piece will be laid down on the table in this manner. That's how we will proceed with the cut. I'll do the other face next. There's my mark. Lay that down this way. Go to one end. There's my mark. I can lay it this way. Take the other side. There's my inside mark. I'll flip it that way. Just to double check, I'll flip them over, and look, there are my marks. Hopefully you can see those. And I will set this pile down exactly in the orientation that I will use to cut the groove. Before we set up our table saw and our dado blade, we need to determine the thickness of the stock or the plywood that we're going to be using for our drawer bottom. Plywood comes in many different thicknesses. The most common for a kitchen cabinet drawer is 1/4 of an inch. But when we purchase 1/4 inch plywood, it could possibly be 3/16, 1/4 inch, 5 millimeter, 5.2 millimeter, or 6 millimeter. This is 6 millimeter Baltic birch plywood, which is nice and stout, strong. It has no voids. It's a good quality plywood. It'll make us a nice strong drawer. So we have to set our dado blade to match the thickness of our stock. In this case, it's 6 millimeter. The dado blade, if we use just 2 blades, will give us 1/4 of an inch. We're a little bit wider than that, and so I have placed a shim in between the 2 blades. In this case, it's 15 thousandths, and that boosts us up a little bit over the 6 millimeter measurement. When we cut dados, there is a little bit of spring back. The wood will expand slightly after we've made our cut, and that will essentially make the dado smaller or narrower. So we can cut it a little oversized. The spring back will make the dado a little bit smaller, and it should, if we've tested it and set it up accurately, it should give us a good slip fit. It is very important that you do test cuts in scrap wood. Do a couple test cuts, check your plywood, make sure that it fits in there nicely. We don't want a super tight fit, and we don't want the bottom to rattle once the drawer is assembled. So it needs to be a nice slip fit. The dado that we're going to cut should be 1/4 inch deep. That you can also verify with scrap wood. Do test cuts, test and fit and measure, and make sure that you have everything exact. Once we have our dado blade set and the height set, then the next thing we need to do is position the fence to cut the groove in the best position. If we locate the bottom in a tail socket, then the groove will be hidden from on the outside of the box. So when the joint goes together, if the groove is on the inside, if the groove is on the inside of a tail socket and on the inside of a pin, when the joint goes together, it will cover that into that groove or that cut. If we do not do that and we cut the groove where it hits a tail over here, this nice dovetail shape, there will be a rectangular hole visible on the outside of the drawer box when it's all done. We want to try to avoid that. It's not the end of the world if you do. You can plug it. There's a little trick of taking a stick of material that matches similar, carefully cleaning it or sanding it to fit, gluing it in, cutting it off flush, and you can fill that hole fairly well. We're going to try to avoid that. So we want our bottom to be in that socket and approximately 1/4 of an inch up above the bottom edge of the drawer. The best way to do that is to take an end piece and lay it on the table and bring it up to your dado blade. Now we can adjust our fence right and left to get the spacing exactly where we want it. And when we're happy with that, we go ahead and lock the fence and we're ready to go. I'm going to double check my marks again, make sure, because I was fiddling with them and I moved them around, I don't want to cut any piece on the wrong face. So now they are in the position that I will cut them. I don't have to worry about that. I can just do one at a time and proceed through the cut. For this operation, it's important that you use safety glasses and a push stick or a push pad. If you're doing a wide stock or a long piece, the push pad might be better for you. So now I will proceed to make the cuts. There's the first one. Two. And 4. At this point, before you leave the dado saw, you should check to make sure that they are all at full depth. It's easy for a piece of stock to lift up a little bit, and you won't realize it, but it'll leave a bump in the bottom of the groove, and then it's very difficult to get the bottom, the plywood piece, to fit. So I check each one. They look like they're okay, and we can double check our plywood to make sure it fits. And that fits pretty good. It's a little tight, but we can take care of that with a sander. Before we glue this drawer together, we will sand this plywood and clean up any pencil marks or scratches or mill marks that might be on there. There's a little bit of a scuff there. We'll clean that off, get the fuzz and the tear out off of there, and perhaps even ease that edge or chamfer it a little bit so that it will fit better into the grooves. And that's all there is to it.